Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome members of the United States Senate, the United States House of Representatives, Speaker of the House, Secretary Michael Donnelly, and honored guests. Ladies and gentlemen, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi.
Good morning. Today we are gathered here in Emancipation Hall to honor the courageous patriotism of the Women's Air Force Service pilots, to honor them with the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest honor Congress can bestow. Let us begin the ceremony by asking the WASP in attendance to stand and be recognized. As we prepare to stand for the presentation of the colors, I also want to acknowledge a former colleague, Congresswoman and former Ambassador Lindy Boggs, who 30 years ago began this campaign to have the WASP honored. Lindy Boggs, please. Lindy will be 94 years old this weekend. I now ask all attendees to rise for the presentation of the colors.
see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as Reverend Barry Black gives the invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we are gathered here today to honor an elite fraternity of women Air Force pilots. Their history is one of service, patriotism, and heroism. Lord, like their male Air Force counterparts, they were a formidable force of over 1,000 skilled aviators whose service to our grateful nation is now being acknowledged in this grand hall. Though many of these brave women are no longer with us, the memory of their service will endure. Lord, let those still with us who gather here today know that they are American heroines who have brought honor to you and country. Bless, keep, and sustain them in all their tomorrows and beyond. We pray in your sovereign name. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Susan Davis.
Good morning, everyone. I want to begin with a word of thanks. At a very precarious time in our country's history, you stepped forward. You volunteered without notice or expectation of recognition for often dangerous missions. Unfortunately, 38 of your fellow WASP lost their lives on those missions, and many more have passed away since their service. I know you held a remembrance ceremony and a wreath laying for them yesterday. I wish they had all been here today to receive this honor, and I appreciate the many family members that are in attendance on behalf of their loved ones. Thank you for your remarkable service and soaring patriotism. Your love of flying and your desire to serve your country are testaments to your outstanding heroism. I have been captivated by your legacy for the past year, as I, like far too many Americans, didn't know your story. So in addition, thank you for your patience. This honor is much deserved and long overdue. Today, your day of honor is an opportunity to thank you for your fearless, selfless service. Your strength and your spunk, your unprecedented moxie is an inspiration. Servicewomen today stand on your shoulders, perhaps unknowingly. Let this be just the beginning as your story is spread throughout the country. We've heard it on public radio and many other outlets. It is wondrous for me to be a part of history, part of your day, part of sharing your story. I hope that when you leave today, you will take with you not only your medal, but also our sincere, our awe-inspired gratitude. Congratulations, and thank you again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Ileana Rose-Lehtinen.
Good morning. As the House author of legislation to award the Congressional Gold Medal to you, the Women Air Force Service Pilots, WASP, it is an honor to be here on this important and long overdue occasion. The WASP served our country without hesitation and with no expectation of recognition or praise. Yet, as our 23rd President Benjamin Harrison once noted, the manner by which women are treated is a good criterion to judge the true state of a society. We would be remiss to not honor such a unique cadre of women who paved the way for future generations of women in the military, including my daughter-in-law, Lindsay Nelson, a Marine Corps pilot who has flown missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. Lindsay is part of the lasting legacy of all of you, of the WASP. She is part of the legacy that you leave behind. So on behalf of Lindsay, my congressional colleagues, and a grateful nation, I offer my sincerest thanks and utmost admiration. Felicidades.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Kay Bailey Hutchinson.
Thank you. As we celebrate Women's History Month, this is the perfect time for us to gather and honor the Women's Air Force Service Pilots, the WASP. With the Congressional Gold Medal for these women truly made history. America's first women to fly military aircraft, they blazed a trail in the sky, opening the doors for women military pilots today. By the time the war ended, 1,074 women had earned their wings at Avenger Field in Sweetwater, Texas. 38 were killed in action. Throughout the war, these courageous women flew over 60 million miles around the world in every type of aircraft and on every type of mission flown by male pilots except direct combat missions. They were never commissioned,
were never afforded active duty military status and were not granted veteran status until 1977. All these women volunteered to serve our country in wartime. They paid their own way to Texas for training, and when the war ended, the program ended, they paid their own way back home. And those who were killed in action were buried by their families, often with contributions taken up by the women of the WASP. I wrote about the WASP in my book, American Trailblazers, the spirited women who shaped our country, and they surely did. However, despite their patriotic impact, the WASP were never formally recognized by Congress for their wartime military service until today. Today, we right a wrong and acknowledge our debt to these great patriots, women who are so worthy of this award and this recognition. Tom Brokaw raised the awareness for all Americans of the greatest generation. We are closing a circle today of unrecognized achievement that began with the Tuskegee Airmen and the Code Talkers, and today the WASP. I am proud to have introduced the Senate bill with my friend Barbara Mikulski. It is the legislation that has resulted in this celebration today. It passed in record time for a gold medal resolution, and for this I thank my colleagues and the leaders in the Senate and House who responded with incredible enthusiasm. But most of all, I want to thank the WASP and their families, all who are here today, who have waited so long and traveled so far to hear these words. On behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for your service.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Barbara Mikulski.
Good morning, everybody. Today, all of America stands in salute. Salute to the 1,074 women Air Force service pilots, known, beloved, and treasured around this country as the WASPs. As we gather today, we want to say, we know that your contributions were often unrecognized. Your personal service and self-sacrifice was unrewarded, and your love of Air Force and military service was often unrequited and unreturned. Well, we are here today to undo that wrong and act long overdue. The greatest generation that saved democracy and Western civilization was not limited to one gender. You gave all that you could to save the United States of America and the world who was at war. You gave America your lives, your love, and your devotion. And today, Congress will give you the gold. The Congressional Gold Medal for Women's Air Force Service Pilots is the highest expression that we can bestow for courage, service, and dedication to our country. You and those WASPs who are not here today, those absent friends, deserve this recognition for the service during World War II and our country's greatest time of need. You answered the call of duty, and you did it on your own dime. I'm so very proud to have co-sponsored this bill with my dear friend, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson, because you know, it's not about partisanship, it's about citizenship. It's not about whether you're from a red state or a blue state. We've got to start being the red, white, and blue United States of America. You flew that military aircraft. You were in fighters, bombers, cargo, training aircraft. You flew every type of assignment flown except combat. But you also flew in the face of gender bigotry and even gender hostility. True to your calling, though, you defended America and you became trailblazers and true patriots. You flew over 60 million miles, 12,000 planes, 122 American bases, and 14 women came from Maryland. But it is not about numbers, and it's 14 women from Maryland. Even now, we still don't get it right sometime. But during those times, we know you, like your male counterparts, came in on a wing and a prayer. When the war was over, you came home. 30 of you came home in pine boxes that your families had to pay for yourself, and often buses where you scraped together your own bus fares. But you held your head up high because you had known that you had flown in the wild blue yonder. And today, because of your valor, your trailblazing, women are serving in the Air Force and the military, fighter pilots, astronauts, helicopters, search and rescue pilots, etc. You really created this opportunity. So as the old Air Force song goes, off we go into the wild blue yonder. You fly high and into the sky, but today, instead of giving her the gun, we will give you the gold. God bless you, and God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel Nicole Malachowski.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi, and distinguished members of Congress for hosting us here today. It's not on? Thank you, Speaker Pelosi, and distinguished members of Congress for hosting us here today. A special thank you to Senators Hutchison and Mikulski and Congresswomen Davis and Ross-Lightman for making this day possible. To all the VIPs in attendance, our WASP and their families and friends, welcome. Today is the day where the WASP will make history once again. One of the biggest blessings of my Air Force career has been the opportunity to develop a close relationship with many of the WASP. So it means so much to me personally that they are being honored and remembered here today. If I may be so bold, I'd like to speak on behalf of all my fellow service members, women and men alike. As you all know, the past 8.5 years have been challenging for us. Days, weeks, months, and even years away from family and loved ones, going into harm's way against an enemy who doesn't play by the rules we used to know. It's these WASP, though, that remind us to step back and remember why we serve. We serve because we love our country. We do it because we know that freedom comes at a cost and that it's worth defending. And we do it for one another. If you spend any time at all talking to these wonderful women, you'll notice how humble and gracious and selfless they all are. Their motive for wanting to fly airplanes all those years ago wasn't for fame or glory or recognition. They simply had a passion to take what gifts they had and to use them to help defend not just America, but the entire free world from tyranny. And they let no one get in their way. Another thing you might notice is that despite the incredible barriers that were placed in their paths, they speak nothing but positive about their experiences. They have always focused on their opportunity to fly, the privilege of serving their country, and the importance of the mission they set out and accomplished. To me, they are embodiment of the word integrity. For all of us in uniform, our heritage has profound importance. We look to the heroes in the battles of the past to take what we can from those lessons, to learn where we have come from, and to find role models to follow. Our military history, which at long last includes the history of our women Air Force service pilots, reminds us why we all serve. So as we indelibly write the WASP story alongside the story of so many others, we say thank you. Thank you for your service, for your sacrifice, and most importantly for the example you set for all of us who follow. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Brokaw.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much. It's a great privilege for me to be here. I'm unaccustomed to being in the rarefied air of the speaker's podium. I'm generally back there with the photo dogs, so this is a real elevation for me. But let me also, if I may, acknowledge Colonel Malachowski, who in reality is a direct descendant of these remarkable women you see here today. And typically, she reported for duty today, even though, as you can see, she has a broken leg. What you don't know is that she's also expecting twins later this summer. So I think that we have to acknowledge that as well. Like so many Americans, when I began to write The Greatest Generation, I was unaware of the contribution of the WASP. And then we found one of them, Margaret Ringenberg. Many of you in this audience know her, an Indiana farm girl who became a WASP. We unfortunately lost Margaret this past year, but she became one of the most famous small plane pilots in the world. And typically, at the age of 79 in 2001, she participated in a London to Sydney air race. She flew to the last moment of her life. I've always thought that Margaret was emblematic of the WASP, and the WASP were emblematic of what I came to call the greatest generation. I think that we should all take just a moment and savor this moment for what these women represent, not just to us now, but think about the lives that they have led, the history that they have seen, the difficulties that they have helped this nation overcome, together, individually, and collectively. They remind us today of all that is great within us and the ability to move forward as one nation. Their lives were formed first by the Great Depression, when life was about sacrifice and common cause. And then they were asked to do no less than go off and defeat the two mightiest military machines in the history of mankind and save the world. I'm often asked about that title, The Greatest Generation. I'm challenged about it. I have two answers generally. The first one is, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But in more detailed fashion, I remind people who ask me about that, about what that generation came to represent, not just to this country, but to the world. In fact, they did give us the lives that we have today. And women and people of color who served their country nobly, with great courage and a great sacrifice, came home and with dignity and peacefully asked this country to recognize not just their contributions then, but to accept them as full citizens. Now, on this occasion, I have a third reason to say that this is the greatest generation, because this occasion has done something unique in the nation's capital this year. They have brought to a common hall, to a common cause, to a common microphone, and common language Senators Reid and McConnell, Speaker Pelosi, and Congressman Boehner. And if you're still uncertain about the title, was it the greatest generation? I ask you to take it up with this audience. I rest my case. Congratulations. Thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, United States Air Force Band vocalist, Master Sergeant Regina Coonrod.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Atom boys, give it a gun. Down we dive, spotting our flame from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live in fame and go down in flame. Hey, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary of the United States Air Force, the Honorable Michael Donnelly.
Well, good morning, Madam Speaker, Congressman Boehner, Majority Leader Reid, Senator McConnell, distinguished guests all, and especially our WASPs. On behalf of the men and women of the United States Air Force, it is indeed a privilege to be with you as we recognize the Women Air Force Service pilots with the Congressional Gold Medal. As Tom Brokaw and others have chronicled, World War II changed America in many ways. And today we offer tribute to your courage to break through a societal barrier, join the ranks of courageous airmen of the day in what was an urgent and hazardous undertaking. As a result of your conviction and your devotion to duty, from that time onward, women would forever be part of United States military aviation. It is perhaps regrettable that it has taken this long to fully acknowledge your service to our nation. But as that 19th century European observer Alexis de Tocqueville noted, the greatness of America lies not in being more enlightened than any other nation, but rather in her ability to repair her faults. And today we take yet another overdue step in repairing one such fault. This morning I represent a proud and grateful Air Force. Your contributions have made possible a more complete America, a more perfect union, and a more effective United States Air Force. Because of you, over 64,000 women serve in our Air Force today, nearly 20% of active duty airmen. More than 600 women are serving as pilots. 102 are general officers. Female airmen now serve shoulder to shoulder and professionally indistinguishable from their male counterparts throughout our Air Force. Continuing your legacy, over 63,000 Air Force women have deployed in support of combat operations just since September 11th, 2001. These women share a very noble tradition of service, which began with Jackie Cochran, with you, and other pioneers of your generation, and those who followed. We thank you today for your courage, for your service, for the history that you made, and for this enduring legacy to America's Air Force. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Republican Leader of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable John Boehner.
Thank you. Madam Speaker and my colleagues, honored guests, and our gold medal recipients, welcome to all of you. Today we honor the flyers of the Women Air Force Service Pilots, the WASP. We're proud of their service and humbled to present them with our nation's highest civilian honor. The story of these dedicated pilots is typical of the extraordinary World War II generation. After Pearl Harbor, Americans unleashed the largest industrial and technological outpouring in world history. The unconditional surrender of Germany and Japan were directly related to our total dominance of the air, a dominance achieved quickly and in every theater of the war. America quickly filled the skies with P-38s, B-47s, Hellcat fighters, B-17 and B-29 bombers. And the famous B-51 Mustang went from the drawing board to production in just 4 months. Now, I'm not a pilot, but what a thrill it must have been to fly those planes. And for 3 years, the flyers of the WASP lived the life at the cutting edge of aviation. One pilot, Ann Carl, was even assigned to Wright Field in Ohio, near where I live, when she met Orville Wright and became the first American woman to fly a jet-powered aircraft. In her autobiography, she said this of her days as a member of WASP, and I quote, "I felt we had been pioneers as military pilots flying military aircraft. None had gone before us. In answering the need for pilots in wartime, we had changed women's status in flying forever. We had proven women could be professional pilots, and many after our lead would follow us," end quote. Between 1942 and 1944, the pilots of WASP delivered 12,650 aircraft, logging some 60 million miles of operational flight from factories to ports or to bases. Of the 25,000 women who applied, about 1,000 earned their wings, and during the war, 38 of them, as you've heard, lost their lives through accidents or in the line of duty. But these few women pilots were responsible for half of all combat aircraft deliveries within the United States. And this is amazing considering America produced 153,000 combat aircraft between 1942 and 1944. And simply put, the outstanding success that America achieved in the era during World War II would not have been possible without the women Air Force Service pilots. We're proud of We are proud of their achievements and of their contribution they have made to defending America and also in ensuring our freedom. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Republican Leader of the United States Senate, the Honorable Mitch McConnell.
Good morning. Six decades have passed since the end of World War II. But America's decisive role in ending that tragedy will always be a defining part of our history, because it reaffirms the basic tenet of the American creed. America's role in World War II reminds us and the world that where freedom is challenged, Americans will rise up to defend it. We will demonstrate through sacrifices great and small that we believe what we say about freedom. And that's just what the women who we recognize today did through their courageous service as Air Force service pilots. We overlooked them for too long, but today we honor them. We honor them for reaffirming with their lives not only America's enduring commitment to freedom, but many other deeply American qualities. An impatience with artificial obstacles to success, a commitment to excellence, guts, daring, and the willingness, once victory is won, to quietly walk away, content to return to ordinary life. We honor women like Millie Davidson and Kay D'Arzo, whose husbands were both missing in action and who chose to make their lonely vigil more meaningful by flying with the Wasps. We honor them and hundreds of other women across the country and from every walk of life. Women who paid their own way to an airfield in West Texas to do something women had never done before. We honor these remarkable pioneers of the sky. We affirm their place in the firmament of American heroes. And most of all, we thank them in this hallowed place, in this great gallery of freedom, for their tremendous service in freedom's cause. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Majority Leader of the United States Senate, the Honorable Harry Reid.
Just a point of personal privilege, Colonel Malachowski was my appointment to the Air Force Academy from Nevada. Today we honor these brave women, not just for the miles they flew, but for the many they inspired. More than 600 female pilots patrol the world's skies today as members of the United States Air Force. More than 1,600 women today serve on active duty at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. Not too long ago, both those numbers were 0. Each of today's female pilots, every American who now serves in the more equal military, and every little girl who wants to fly and fight for a country has the women Air Force service pilots to thank for the dreams that are taking flight. Two of those are Frances Tennessee and Madge Moore, who are here today from Las Vegas. Nevada has always been the home of pioneers, and it's no surprise that it's their home too. The women of the WASP wanted nothing more than to serve, knowing full well their service would be full of sacrifice and a risk. Their country didn't initially call them, but they answered anyway. When the 1,100 WASPs volunteered for duty, it meant 1,100 more warriors could go to the front lines. It meant our military was stronger both at home and abroad. So your selfless sacrifice was exemplary. Your sacrifices for your nation were necessary, and your leadership was revolutionary in its impact on the United States Armed Forces. Congressional gold medals are often long overdue. If you look at the long list, I'm not the short list of honorees, and when they were honored, you might reasonably ask, why did it take so long? But overdue recognition is nothing new to this brave group. They were given no military benefits during the war, no veterans benefits when it ended. The 38 women who died in the line of duty received no suitable honors. Their coffins couldn't even bear the flag of the country for which they gave their lives. And when it was over, these women who had flown their nation's most powerful planes had to get home on their own. For years it seemed your contributions were forgiven and forgotten. I should say forgotten. Let me read that again. For years it seemed your contributions were forgotten. When the Air Force selected a handful of women for pilot training in 1976, it mistakenly said that was the first time females would fly military aircraft. They were wrong. Today, we not only remember your service, we reward it with our deepest appreciation and the highest civilian award Congress can give. Belated though our thanks may be, these extraordinary medals honor you in the same way our nation's honored other revolutionary American women like Rosa Parks, other long underappreciated heroes like the Tuskegee Airmen, and other national icons like George Washington. With you here, they're in good company. To all the aviators here today and to those who are here only in their hearts, congratulations and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi.
It is a great honor to join the leadership of the Congress, Senator Reid and Leader McConnell, my colleague in the House, Leader Boehner, representative of the administration, the Secretary of the Air Force. We're honored by your presence. Tom Brokaw, the greatest chronicler of the greatest generation, to bear witness to what is happening here today. Colonel Malachowski, how proud we are of her and how eloquent she spoke of the shoulders that she is standing on, yours. I want to pay special tribute also to the 4 sponsors of the legislation in the House, Congresswoman Susan Davis and Congresswoman Ileana Ross-Layton. In the Senate, Senator Barbara Mikulski and Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson. Thank you. Another woman, a WASP, Jean Haskell Cole, a WASP from Class 44W2, once said, all right. Once you have flown an airplane, your world is never the same again. Once the WASP took to the sky, the world was never the same for many of us. Answering our country's call, the WASP demonstrated courage and patriotism, excellence and competence. Their bravery inspires and awes us. Their success allowed the success of generations since and generations to come. Today, the accomplishments of the WASP will be writ large in our nation's history. But as others have said, we know that this day comes too late for some. Let us remember the WASPs who have left us before they could receive this honor. We acknowledge that for too long the proud service of the WASPs was not recognized in word or in deed. As the resolution says today, there were no honors, no benefits, and very few thank yous. Barbara, not to be in a contest or anything, but in California we have nearly 80 WASP living there. So we've known over time the great contribution they've made. And I want to acknowledge Margaret G. from Berkeley, an Asian American WASP, who taught us all so much. For decades, she's been teaching us about, just imagine the courage to leave home, to get the training and go to the air. Today, we honor you as the heroes that you are. I hope it's some source of satisfaction to you that this is one of the largest crowds ever gathered inside the Capitol of the United States. The leaders and other guests have spoken about the statistics, the distances traveled, the cargo carried, the number of people, and all the rest. But I want you to know that we had to turn hundreds of people away because we didn't have a room big enough to contain the admiration that we all have for you. Hopefully, they will see it through the media. On behalf of the entire Congress of the United States, our leaders have spoken, but many members of Congress are here, and all of us send you our gratitude for your service, for your patriotism, and for your boundless optimism that the sky is not even the limit anymore for the women of our nation. The patriotism of the WASPs blazed a trail. Others have used the term trailblazer, trailblazer, trailblazer for the women that came after, in flight, in the field of battle, and even in the Congress of the United States. I've been told that there is a WASP song that was used as an encouragement during training at Sweetwater. Maybe some of you remember it, maybe you'll sing it for us. And part of it says, if you have a daughter, teach her to fly. I think they may have had another song in mind, I'm not sure. Women Air Force Service pilots, we are all your daughters. You taught us how to fly. We thank you for that and for what you did in flying to make us the home of the brave and the land of the free. Thank you very much. And now, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Deanie Parrish, who will receive the gold medal on behalf of all of the WASP present here. You will all receive your individual medals, but Deanie will receive it here, Mrs. Parrish will receive it here and speak for all of you. But as we present this to her, may I say, and Senator Leader Reid talked about George Washington and other distinguished Americans who have received this award. All things considered, your receiving this award brings added luster to the Congressional Gold Medal. Thank you for your patriotism and your courage. I want to invite Leader Reid, Leader McConnell, Leader Boehner, and really all of our guests to join us. Colonel Malachowski, if you can, we'd like you all to join us here. Mr. McConnell, now it's going to be loose.
Great.
Isn't that beautiful?
Madam Speaker, my WASP colleagues, distinguished guests, our families, and our friends, I am humbled to have been asked to represent the WASP today. Every single one of these ladies deserves to be standing where I am standing. To the members of Congress, on behalf of all the WASP, we, the Women Air Force Service pilots of World War II, who are here today, thank you for this award with humility, yet with a great sense of pride. Over 65 years ago, we each served our country without any expectations of recognition or glory.
and we did it without compromising the values that we were taught as we grew up: honor, integrity, patriotism, service, faith, and commitment. We did it because our country needed us. We thank you for passing this bill to honor our service with the highest honor you can bestow on a civilian. On behalf of all the WASP, we would also like to thank the many WASP champions who are also responsible for this ceremony today. A special thanks to Lieutenant Colonel Malachowski, for writing the first draft of the bill to award the WASP the Congressional Gold Medal, to Senator Hutchison, Senator Mikulski, Representative Ross Latham, and Representative Davis for their leadership in the Congress. And to those of you who are here and those of you all over America who encouraged your senators and your representatives to co-sponsor the WASP bill. To the artists in the United States Mint for creating such a significant symbols of our service on this medal. To Lieutenant Colonel Roxy Dolphin for volunteering to work hundreds of extra hours in order to coordinate all the details, including our military escorts from every branch of the service. And they are here from all bases all across America. We thank them. To General Vaught and her staff at the Women's Memorial, thank you. And as I look around this room at all the cameras, all the news people who are covering this event, we WASP want to especially thank you, each of you, because whether or not you realize it, today you are educating millions of people all over America who have never heard of the WASP. That is all. All we ever ask for is that our overlooked history would someday no longer be a missing chapter in the history of World War II, in the history of the Air Force, in the history of aviation, and most especially the history of America. I grew up believing that with God's help, nothing is impossible. I still believe it because I believe this is the day that when the people of America will no longer hesitate in answering the question, do you know who the WASP were? And it's because of the media that that will happen. I believe I speak for every WASP when I say that it was both a privilege and an honor to serve our country during some of the darkest days of World War II. Thank you. Thank you, members of Congress. In closing, I want to say, God bless all of you, and God bless our troops who are keeping our country free. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as Reverend Daniel Coughlin delivers the benediction.
Let us bow our heads and pray for God's blessing. Lord, may the hands and hearts of this nation be raised in prayer and praise for these pioneering women of full military service, the women Air Force service pilots. Just as the wings of a plane take to flight, may their spirits be lifted from the past to celebrate this present moment with full honor and glory. May the breath of God uphold their noble and heroic story, carry it to other generations and even to other nations, and so inspire young women everywhere to serve the mighty cause of faithful public service, always seeking equal justice. May those who made the ultimate sacrifice, those who etched out each historic victory, and those who presently fly above the fracas of denial and disdain, be rewarded with success and find peace. Bless all women and men in military service and their families. God bless America and grant us peace, both in present circumstance and peace with you, the Almighty, forever. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain at your seats for the official photography of today's ceremony and the departure of the official party.